Well, hi, everybody. My name is Jerry Wise, and I'm a life and relationship coach and founder of Jerry Wise Relationship Systems. For many decades, I was a marriage and family therapist, a social worker, a chemical dependency therapist, pastoral counselor, and a pastor. And I'm now a YouTube creator focusing on Bowen family systems for healing and recovery from codependency and narcissistic abuse. And I'd like to introduce my guest today, and many of you may already know her. She is Lisa Romano. And Lisa is a certified life coach who specializes in codependency and narcissistic abuse, which is one of the reasons why I wanted to sit down with her and have a talk. Lisa is the founder and president of Breakthrough Coaching, and that she believes that all of man's limitations are a result of childhood programming, which is also similar to the Bowen Family Systems approach that I use as well. She's a popular YouTube creator, radio host, author, mentor. She has numerous books she's written, which I'm very impressed that she's had the time and energy and effort to write those. I'm jealous as well. The Road Back to Me, The Road Beyond the Codependent Divorce, Loving the Self-Affirmations, Quantum Tools to Help You Heal Your Life Now, Codependent, Now What? It's not you, it's your programming. And I want to welcome Lisa to the interview today.
Hi, Jerry. Thank you very much for inviting me. I appreciate being here.
You are very welcome. We've already done a little bit of talking before. We also had a previous call where we talked, and I enjoyed very much talking with Lisa. I've followed her work for some time now, and I've been impressed by her knowledge base and also her approach to helping people in a very non-judgmental, caring, and competent way. And I just that really has always stuck with me, and that's why I feel it's a real pleasure and treat for me to be able to talk with her today.
I appreciate that so much, Jerry. Thank you.
Well, you're very welcome. I've had some viewers and fans of mine who have been happy that we were going to kind of get together and talk a little bit. So they were very excited about that.
That's always fun.
It is. Lisa, let me ask, what part do families play in our programming? Let me ask something like that. What's your view of what part families play in our programming? Because I know, again, when we've been codependent, and I'm a recovering codependent, and we've been had narcissistic abuse in our lives, that not only do we have the abuse and the problems that come up with codependency as adults, but then you throw in our programming and then it really gets crazy.
I think that codependency is a result of family dysfunction. So codependency is what happens. So dysfunction goes in, codependency comes out. You know, if I'm a lion, I can only, and I have a human child, I can only help that human child behave like a lion. If I have immature parents who are emotionally arrested, I'm actually a child that's being raised by a child, and they're not going to be able to help me become a functional, relational adult, an autonomous adult. So autonomous parents who are not autonomous cannot teach autonomy. If anything, they're going to be threatened by a child's autonomy when the child naturally tries to push up against the parent. So to answer your question, it has everything to do with how we turn out.
You mentioned also, and you have mentioned about how your breakthrough workshops and those kinds of things. What kind of breakthrough? I know I think about the breakthroughs I want people to have when I work with them. What's, and maybe I can mention mine too, but what's the breakthrough you're hoping they will achieve when they work with you or do one of your workshops or, online
There are
training?
so many, but I think when I go back to my own life, a big breakthrough for me was when I realized that I was in therapy talking about my dysfunctional marriage. My body was breaking down from autoimmune diseases bit by bit. And the breakthrough was something's going on inside of me and has something to do with my past. So I'm here because of my marriage, I think, but I'm really here because of the way that I think, the way that I process information, and the way that I don't think. I don't think well of
Right.
myself. You know, codependency is rooted in a lack, an inability to esteem yourself as worthy. And so you end up in relationships that actually mimic that unworthiness. And you keep trying harder and harder to make it work. So your body's breaking down. And you don't realize that very often you manifest somebody who has an inability to hear you and have empathy for you. So you just keep trying. And so that was a big breakthrough for me. Like, wow, I married my mother.
Right.
I'm here because this is very reminiscent of my childhood. This repetition compulsion thing. I recreated this dynamic. That was a huge breakthrough. The next breakthrough was that it wasn't me, it was my programming, that I am a valuable creature, an extension of God. Mm-hmm. And something happened to me while on planet Earth that corrupted my thinking. So the next breakthrough was, it's not me, I'm good enough, but my programming, that which my conscious mind is interfacing with, is a problem. And then another breakthrough was that it's not my fault. I'm enough.
That's huge.
It's not my fault. Like this, because what I did was I reverse engineered it. I had no healthy role models to help me. Sure, my therapist helped me understand I was codependent and why, but I didn't have the tools to undo it and unlearn it. And so that's when, and I had 3 kids. I didn't have the luxury, at least I didn't think so. I wouldn't have been able to. No one would have supported me. And my ex-husband would have never allowed me to take money to go away to a treatment center. So it was up to me to figure this out. And so I reverse engineered. I looked at a healthy family versus an unhealthy family. And I was like, oh, I never felt seen. Oh, my emotions weren't validated. I was chastised and criticized. I was verbally abused. I was hit from time to time. I was called bad. I was never trusted. It was always, why do you think that? That can't be true. You're making that up. Like, wow. So no wonder I ended up being codependent. So those are the types of breakthroughs, and also that there is help, that you actually can change. Those are the breakthroughs I want people to have.
And I'm glad you shared those, because I think that's what I wanted people to hear, was you have the breakthrough message, and what are the breakthroughs that you hope that people will achieve. And I think those are great. And I've always loved your 4 words, it's not my fault. Mm-mm. And I hear those so often when I watch your videos and those, and I thought, because that's my view as well with a Bowen family systems approach. It's the family that's in us. It's not our fault. We didn't put that family in us. We were born into this family. And whatever level of self-differentiation the family experiences with a big super self, because it's usually one big self, it's not each individual self, it's just a clump in dysfunctional families. And we share in that super self. And if that self-differentiation level or maturity or actualization, we can use many different words for it, is low, then that's what I'm going to be experiencing when I become an adult. And that's going to be my programming that I have to deal with as an adult. And then the hope, I hope people get, and the breakthrough when I work with them as well, is I want them to see that they don't have to stay with that level of self-differentiation. Mm-hmm. And that's where Bowen was a help for me, having gone through hundreds, if not thousands, of self-help books, graduate degrees, whatever, trying to fix or heal myself. Mm-hmm. And then stumbling onto Bowen, which wasn't even a big part of my training, really, mm-hmm. and learning about, oh, wait a minute, I'm a part of this whole system. So if I can become self-aware, if I can define myself, if I can self-regulate myself, oh, I might be able to become an adult, and I might be able to be a different person than just a Jerry Wise Wardwell creature.
Well, the problem I think a lot of us have is that, you know, in order to become self-actualized, you need to confront what's going on, and you need to learn how to feel your feelings. And, you know, when you have been traumatized by a family system that doesn't allow you to have individual feelings, then when you start to look within, there's panic. You know, you're programmed to not do that.
Yeah, you are taught.
You have to override this default setting to suppress, repress, and deny.
And you're right. And in a family systems approach, we call that learned observational blindness. You know, you don't see what's in the system. You don't see what's going on because you're not supposed to see what's going on. You were trained not to see what was going on, and you were trained not to confront what was going on. So you learn to not see. And when I've worked with clients before, sometimes I've even asked them, where did you learn to not notice that? And then I go, oh, well, now that I think about it, I guess it would have had to have been when I was, 10 years old. And because that's when I first began to not notice this. That's
you're
going
taught to
on.
deny how you feel. And another issue with codependency is that you're taught not to trust your inner reality. So you have an inner experience, and you say, this is how I feel. And then you're told that you don't have a right to feel that way.
Or it's bad, or it's wrong, or it's hurting us or hurting me. I just had a client whose family was, she had signed a letter regarding something in the community, and they all were hurt and ashamed that she signed this letter. Now, by the way, this woman's 40, 50 years old, and her family's totally ashamed, and it's like, but she had learned that shame all of her life. And so she's, even now as an adult, has to struggle with what do I do with their hurt and their shame? And of course, I always say, nothing.
Right.
What are you going to do with you? That you can't change their shame or hurt or how they're enmeshed with you. And that's part of that enmeshment, which is so common. And so we've been working on, hey, let's detach ourselves from their shame and their guilt and guilt tripping and their hurt, and how hurt they are over this. Because hurt's always you're just hurting me, Lisa, and now I've got power over you in some way.
And you're responsible for how I feel.
And you're responsible for how I'm feeling now. And you caused us to feel embarrassed. You caused us. No, I really didn't.
It's a slippery slope, in terms of relationships. And I think it's the more self-actualized you are, the more able you are to recognize when someone is abusing your consideration of them. Because it is possible to be rude. It is possible to be obnoxious and hurt someone's feelings. It is possible to wound someone with your words, but that takes a lot of self-actualization. Sex actualization.
That was our other conversation that we had before.
About codependency and narcissism and sex.
Right. We had a discussion about that video. So.
But that takes such a strong level of autonomy and self-actualization to be able to recognize in yourself, wow, I was just obnoxious and I'm sorry. Like, that was wrong.
Right.
But when you're dealing with dysfunctional family members who are part of this system, they abuse that. So they try to make you, they blur the line, and they make it impossible for you to break free and be autonomous, because now everything that you're doing is affecting them.
Right.
So, yeah.
And that's a powerful dysfunctional pattern. That's a very powerful dysfunctional pattern. And it catches us, in our subjectivity. It catches us in our feelings. And even now, as a 50-year-old woman, she's having a hard time separating herself from the family because she felt caught. And of course she said, well, I'm sorry that you felt that way. She handled it pretty well, but she was still feeling the effects of it. Even though she handled it well with them, she was still feeling the effects of that lifetime of, we're all one. You need to be loyal to the family. You must not hurt anybody else. And if anybody feels hurt or any negative feelings, it's your fault and you need to fix it.
Yeah, it's terrible.
Beliefs.
In order to like break free of this and break through, you really have to get in touch with your sense of abandonment, your sense of rejection, because it's not natural for us to reject one another. It's natural for us to want to bond, especially when it comes to family. This is your tribe. And so this idea that you're doing something to cause this rejection, which you're not, it's dysfunction
Right.
that's causing the rejection.
It's dysfunction, right.
You have to, it's like with gardening, right? Gardening 101, like you have to trim off the dead leaf, in order for you to flourish. But it's not natural as a human being to say, my mother is hurting me, I have to go no contact. It's not natural. There's going to be.
Right. There's a lot of resistance.
And it makes sense.
To that.
But when I think if you're helping a client, like at least in my work, what I do is I help them understand the necessity that you have to save yourself. That's why you put your oxygen mask on first.
And when I can tell it's going to be a really strong battle for them to do that. And I always try to work with them in a way, does this relationship require more self-differentiation or detachment, or does it require no contact? Mm-hmm. Because there are levels of, and when I sense that they're, even to do self-differentiation, even to detach from someone, there's a certain level of grief work involved with them because you're letting them go.
Absolutely.
You're letting them go. And it's always been normal for us to be so tight in a dysfunctional way,
yep,
but very tight. And you're right, the abandonment feelings that we would have, feelings of rejection, and it's just so difficult. And so I will begin to work with them on the abandonment, letting go, those kind of areas, because then you're going to be able to deal with them like you might deal with a neighbor rather than the family, and mom and dad.
Love is very, I think people from dysfunctional families, like love is like this, it's a clenched fist, right? And love is actually this. And I learned this when I rescued a little hummingbird. And I don't know if he hit my window or if he was dehydrated, but I started feeding him syrup, water syrup, and he started coming around. And it wasn't until I started to close my hand that he took off. I mean, I was like, when is this hummingbird going to leave? But as long as I was open.
As long as you were open.
He was fine.
Wow.
And so that's my analogy. When someone loves you, it should be open-handed. It shouldn't be strangling you with what they want you to do and what they think. They should be open to what you think and what you feel, and hopefully you can meet in the middle, and vice versa. You can't strangle someone else who doesn't think like you do either.
We still remain stuck if we're in our dysfunctional pattern or family programming, or the family system is at work in us. When the family starts to close that, that hand, we will try to talk through it, try to fix them, perfect them, say, don't squeeze your hand, say, we'll try to do everything we can to get it go back the other way. And I think that struggle is a really hard one. It's also tends to be a dysfunctional one too. Well, I didn't mean it that way, and you should have your hands open. And, love really is having your hands open, mom and dad, and
what
that.
You have to
what
do
you mean?
To do.
That's right. I'm your mother. I'm your dad. You're
hurting me.
We only want the best for you. We're this is us now.
Yep.
And so you can't have that discussion, but people will stay in that discussion, hoping they could change the system,
yep,
which would change them.
Well, this is where we get into codependency and accountability, because I know for me, I complained and I wanted to change the system, but I realized eventually that was because I was afraid to change. because when I changed, I was
Exactly.
going to leave this system, and then what? And so,
Then what?
so that's why a big part of what I do is I coach people to this point of maturity where they're able to see like, oh, what am I'm avoiding accountability.
I'm avoiding.
How I feel. And once I look at really how I feel and I see that the power has always been within me, I don't need these people in my life. I'm a grown ass adult.
There's
But
no law that says you have to.
no, but if I stay in the dysfunction, then I don't have to change and I don't have to deal with being alone. Right? And I think that part of our soul's evolution is to deal with non-attachment. To be able to love people from this space, like you're free to go and you're free to stay.
Free to stay.
So this is how I feel. And if you reject me because of that, Mom, that's okay. But if you do this, then I have to walk away.
Right. And I'm walking away not because I don't want to have a relationship. Right. I'm walking away because you're not able to have a relationship with me. So it's not my fault. Mm-hmm. It's I would be happy to have a good relationship with family of origin. I mean, would be ideal. Yeah. But I have to walk away because of what's going on with you. They don't see that. They're still in denial. They still feel entitled and all that. And it's not going to, and we have to accept this is where they are. Now, what are you going to do? Because mm-hmm. This is where they are. Yeah. You can't expect them to be having done 6 years of therapy tomorrow. Mm-hmm. That's not going to happen.
It's quite the challenge.
Quite the challenge for families. And I think, go ahead.
And for individuals. I mean, you're traumatized your entire life. You're walking around on eggshells. You're trying to make mom happy, your sister happy. You're attracting dysfunctional people, rescuing them, enabling them, toning yourself down. And then all of a sudden recovery is about bucking the system. All of a sudden recovery is about facing every fear they're going to talk about you.
Right. And Lisa, why are you always such a problem? Why are you so sensitive? Why are you?
Exactly what happened to me. When I decided to get divorced and I looked my dad in the face, I realized, oh my God, I'm 30 something years old. I'm so codependent on my father that I'm afraid to tell him how unhappy I am. That's crazy. When I finally said to him, I'm going to have to get divorced. And he said, why? I said, because I'm happy. His answer was, who said you have to be happy? Do you think your mother and I are happy? And I looked at my mother, the good codependent.
Happiness has nothing to do with this.
I looked at my mom and she looked at him and her face was shocked because she was the more codependent one who had given up her life for this selfish man. And she could not believe that he was not happy with all of her sacrifices. And when I saw that exchange, I was like, I have to keep moving forward. And you know what? They turned on me.
They had to unite.
Yes.
They had to bond and unite and put you as the odd man out.
Yes.
You have to be because so they can protect their relationship and protect what they have in an unhealthy way. Yeah. And again, unhealthy relationships, we have to do that. Mm-hmm. We've got to get the bad virus out because you're going to infect us with your truth or non-denial or
I think I was always seen as, and I think that happens a lot in families, that the most emotionally honest child is the scapegoat child. The one that's feels like something's off. Everybody's smiling, but something's not right. That child is seen as a problem because they're going up against the denial of the mother and father. If I accept that there's something wrong, I was 7, my first or second grade teacher told my mother, she needs therapy. I don't know what's wrong. My mother didn't take me to therapy, because that perhaps something would have been revealed. So let's not get this kid therapy. My teacher saw something,
Right.
So that's how, oh no, I can't expose her to people and get her to be able to talk. She might tell people about the names that I called her or what's going on in the house. Why are you so sad?
A third party is now going to hear the family secrets and the family denial, and we can't have that.
Right.
And you're right. I think the scapegoated child tends to be the one that sees more, lifts the skirt of the family, truth teller, or just can't feel comfortable with the relationship contract we have. It's just not workable, and they're not happy with that. And then they become a scapegoat, and then they're the problem. And I've talked with a lot of scapegoats, and it's a really difficult thing. And I know when I work with folks and they are continually focusing on their family of origin. Now, I don't mean understanding their family of origin within or understanding their feelings. I'm talking about when they're still focused on, well, mom hurts me and dad hurts me, and how can I do things that would make them not hurt me so much? You know, when they're over focused on the family of origin, or even others, or even a spouse, and they're blaming others, often that's a clue you're afraid of looking at you. You know, you're afraid of dealing with you, because that's who we have to deal with.
I think also, what does it mean? For me, when I was married to my ex-husband, you know, when I finally stopped complaining about him not hearing me, it meant that I had to look inside and ask myself, well, how do you feel about him not hearing you? Oh my God. It was
oh my gosh.
I don't want to look at that, because I have to be responsible for how I feel. And then if I acknowledge
I might have to make some choices. I might have to
end this marriage and take 3 little kids with me and
no.
everything.
So it's much easier to focus on the husband. And what he's not doing, and why he's not doing it, and how he's not meeting my needs, and or whatever.
Much easier. And that's the part of codependency that I think is very difficult for us. That it's a very difficult pill to swallow, because but it is true. It's not your fault. You were a victim of, you know, you do struggle with CPTSD. You were a victim of some type of emotional neglect or child abuse. You were a victim, and you have to accept that and surrender to the fact that you were abused. But at some point in the recovery journey, you know, your eyes have to start looking within.
Right.
And choices have to be made. And tools have to be relied upon, so that you can break through, break free, and live an autonomous life separate from this. This is akin to being born a liver cell and saying, I want to be a brain cell. Really. That's what this is akin to. I was born a liver cell, but I don't want to be a liver cell anymore. I want to be a brain cell. And how do I do that? Holy Hannah.
That's a huge work.
Absolutely.
And again, the self-definition, the self-regulation, the self-awareness, all those things are things we have avoided and we're taught to avoid, because you're not supposed to self-regulate in a family. You're supposed to have the family regulate you. I mean, that's what's supposed to be happening. And in a dysfunctional family. And I can remember going through my wasted years of trying to get my mom to be less enmeshed with me.
Yes.
Well, how easy is that? I mean, I'm going to, and in fact, if I get a degree in marriage and family therapy, I'll be able to do that. Then I'll be able to make that happen. Not being aware of, no, I'm the one that has to get detached, and I'm the one that has to become less enmeshed. It's not, she doesn't have to do it first, so I can.
Right.
Because that's a fool's errand. I mean, that's
We've been taught that the power is outside of us. We're conditioned to think that, you know, we come in, we could have 12-year-old parents and think they're God. We have no concept that mom and dad are 12-year-olds. We have no idea. You know, so everything that they teach us becomes ingrained in us, and we don't know how to separate. We don't have that level of objectivity. You know, we don't know that my daughter was raised by a child, you know. So that awareness is a first step awareness, like, oh, it's not me, it's my programming. Oh, my parents were immature. Oh, like they throw tantrums. They're children.
They're children.
They're bullies. Like, you don't agree with them, they bully you. This is childish behavior. This is not mature behavior. No wonder
or spank you, or beat you, or
or worse.
All those things, or worse.
Absolutely.
because they're the parents.
Yeah.
And of course, they come from their generation of programming and all of the things that they've come through. And then from generation to generation, it just comes on down.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where I think this challenge that you've talked about, if that here I'm the result of 5 generations, let's say personality wise or whatever, family systems wise, emotional process wise, that now I'm going to turn around in this river that's flowing down, and I'm going to go against this river
Yep.
that's been coming down for 5 generations. And I'm going to go, wait, no.
Mm-hmm.
And everybody in a family of origin, extended family of origin, everybody's been thinking the same way.
Yeah, everybody's drinking the Kool-Aid.
Right. And now I'm going to stop drinking the Kool-Aid. This will have consequences.
Yes.
And are we ready to have, are we ready to have the courage? Because it does take courage to do that.
Mm-hmm.
But I think the rewards are huge. And they have been in my own life. I mean, I never thought I could be this happy. I just never even dreamed that would even be possible. If you'd have said this was possible, I would have said, oh,
I agree with you.
It's just,
It's a great, I look back when my parents walked away and said, oh, she's crazy. She's always been crazy. She's selfish. That's why she wants a divorce. She's always hard to please. It was so hard. But over time, I realized it was the best thing that they ever could have done for me, because I was free of the judgment. Because up until that point, I was placating them, trying to gain their approvals. But when they walked away from me, I was liberated. I was like, I don't have to worry about what you think anymore. This is awesome. Even narcissistic abuse. Like once you get kicked out of that cycle, yes, it takes time to heal, but what you end up taking away is like, I don't have to worry about what this narcissistic family thinks about me anymore. It is liberating. And that's really the journey that we're on, is to undo these attachments so that we are detached. We can love people with an open hand. Our soul can evolve. We can surrender, and we can eventually even forgive, because like as a pastor, the story of Christ on the cross, forgive them, Father, for they know not what they do.
Right.
That's where your salvation comes from. When you let go and you go become who you need to become in spite of your family, leave them to themselves, and you focus on yourself, you live with integrity, that's when you can really experience tremendous abundance and, just this amazing awakening.
And that's the freedom, that we have.
Mm-hmm.
And to have that freedom is, I think, something you're interested in helping people to achieve. I'm interested in helping people to achieve. Our work is out there, all of the free videos, and we were talking about how challenging it is to be a YouTube creator and all the little struggles that people don't always realize that we go through, and so we can commiserate a little bit. But the free videos we put out there and the programs that we offer, because each of us have to pay bills too, and but we want people to experience that, a life we have come to experience, and that it's possible. And that we've done it and worked on it in our own lives. We certainly haven't achieved, the perfection, which is not going to happen. And I've told some people and some clients, they said, well, how long do you think, you've heard all my problems, Jerry, how long do you think it will? I said, oh, probably about 2 lifetimes. It'll probably be about that when you might be able to get this fixed. That's the bad news. The good news is you can have an awful lot of freedom without becoming perfect.
Yeah.
You don't have to get everything fixed in your life, and it's all, that's not even the good goal to have.
It's progress. If you're able to say no to your sister, will you watch my dog this weekend? That is a huge victory, because that means that you can go kayaking, you can go paddleboarding like you decided. And if you're able to deal with the fact that she's emotional because you said no, and you stay in your own skin and you detach from that, that's a huge victory. That's you becoming you. So it's progress versus perfection. I also believe that, there is darkness in this world, and when you break free from a dark pattern of subconscious programming, then you move towards your light. And so every person that is liberated, every soul that is able to forego these attachments to other people, there's more light in the world. There's less pain,
Right.
there's less suffering, there's less narcissism, there's just less of a lot of darkness in this world when you really, really harness the power within. But you need, just like you need a hammer and a nail to hang up a picture on a wall, you need tools. When you let go of this paradigm and you're in that in-between paradigm state, you need tools. And that's why, probably the same reason that you create videos and write books or whatever it is that people have those tools.
Right. And we need those tools. I was offered tools. You were offered tools. And you also did that re-engineering, which was real important. My own re-engineering happened like in the way I was in understanding Bowen systems and how I could be self-differentiated, because I had no idea about that. No idea about enmeshment. No idea. I knew about dysfunctional families,
Right.
but knowing about something is not knowing how or the ways to heal.
Right. Well, we're all
Yeah.
95% subconscious, right? We're 5% conscious. So the way I look at it is that if you think about your consciousness as 100 horses, 5 of them know something new, but 95% of them are wired to do the old something. So it takes time to
Right.
train these horses, to get to the other side.
Absolutely.
You need to feel
There's
it.
a lot of learning to do.
Sure.
I know you've got things you have to do today, and I want to respect your time,
Thank you.
Lisa. You've been gracious to talk today, and I appreciate getting to interview you and talk with you. Is there anything you'd like to share with the viewers before we go?
Just to know that if you're here, you're supposed to hear this message. If you gravitate, there's so many videos. You could be watching cat videos all day on YouTube. You could,
Right.
no, really, you could be watching, dog grooming Instagram. There's nothing wrong with that. But what I'm
Yeah,
saying is,
those.
but if you're spending a good portion of your time on recovery work, there's a reason, and if you come from a dysfunctional family, you might not even trust why you're watching these types of videos or why you listen to these podcasts. And I just want
Right.
to encourage you to trust that inner guidance to learn more. We all have a built-in GPS, but people from dysfunctional homes have been taught not to listen to it. And so I want to encourage
Right.
you to listen to that inner guidance and, just keep going. And if you need to break through and break free, it's going to be difficult, but it's what you're here to do. It's what you're here to do. You're here to change the system. So thank you for being here.
Wonderful. And I would reaffirm those sentiments. And I know you can find Lisa A. Romano on YouTube and on the internet very easily. You can find me at Jerry Wise Relationship Systems, at my website and YouTube channel. You can find Lisa. She's out there doing great things and very easy to contact. And I want to thank everyone for being watching our video today and our recording. And I appreciate this opportunity to get to chat with Lisa today.
And I appreciate it. It's nice to meet you. Thank you.
It's very nice to meet you, Lisa. And I hope we will continue a positive relationship, because I like what you're doing. And I want to support those who are doing those kinds of things and bringing light into the world rather than darkness.
Absolutely.
And helping people head towards the light.
Yeah, it's everyone's birthright to find their light.
It is. I appreciate it, Lisa.
Thank you. Bye
You
now.
have a great day.
You too. Bye now. Bye.
Bye-bye. Are you